Howdy, howdy. We are live on another Friday night with a brand new episode of Star Trek Lower Decks to talk about. And
Woo.
I'm glad that I'm not alone this week. Like last week, I had to start the show
I
solo.
apologize for that. I at noon I had a meeting, and by 2 o'clock I had a 101-degree fever and was in bed. So no idea what happened. Possibly food poisoning, but it
Well,
came and went very quickly.
I'm glad that you're feeling better now, and I'm glad that in addition to just the two of us, there's people in the live audience chatting away.
Yes.
So looks like we're ready to go ahead and get the show started, talk about this week's brand new episode of Star Trek Lower Decks. So without further ado, I'm Fathery,
I'm Aaron.
and this is Tex-Trek. But it's also
Drawn to Trek.
Engage.
welcome back aboard the Starship Texas for the 261st installment of the Tex-Trek podcast, the home of Star Trek fandom from deep in the heart of Texas, where we take a deep look at Star Trek, old and new. And tonight is also Drawn to Trek number 17.
I'm glad you remembered because I'm just like 16, 17. Like when I'm gone, I'm just like
I'm
off
good with
track.
numbers. You just add one every week, so I can
Well, yeah.
I can keep up.
We still haven't got last week's show out because I haven't had a chance to do that. I'm just gonna put them all out both at the same time. So
Well,
you will get
it'll go
last
out
week's
there
and this
eventually.
week's. Yeah.
But yeah, tonight we're gonna be talking about Star Trek Lower Decks Season 4, Episode 5, Empathalogical Fallacies, written by Jamie Loftus, directed by Megan Lloyd, who I might be wrong, but I think I don't recall those. Well, Megan Lloyd's a little familiar, but is this their first episode? Have they been credited before?
I'm not sure. It doesn't. I don't think so. I think Megan was on another podcast. I think talking about it. I did not get a chance to see it. I would. I'm not as up on the directors and writers as I should be. I was for Prodigy for some reason, but not for Lower Decks as much. And there's a lot of them too. That probably is part of it.
Yeah, and they've also been going for 4 years, so they've had they're like far enough into the life cycle of that show that the people working on it in season 4 aren't all the same people that were working on it in season 1.
Yeah, exactly.
But I'm really looking forward to talking about this one. Before we get into it, though, just a little bit of housekeeping per usual. I need to give a big thank you and shout out to the Tex-Trek Patreon crew. So we will name all of y'all at the end of the show in the credits, but we like to celebrate with the Patreon supporters every month. We do a watch party. We have one coming up on October 14th. Saturday afternoon, 3:30 p.m. Central. We're going to be watching a spooky episode for Halloween time, so I can announce it now. But we're going to be doing the Star Trek Enterprise episode Impulse, perhaps better known as the Zombie Vulcan episode. So it's a good one, and it's also like an early credit for Terry Matalas. I think he has the story by credit on it, so
Yeah.
maybe even his. Well, I guess he would have had. Well, I don't know. He didn't have any story by credits yet in on Voyager, but he did have some in Enterprise season 2, I think. But I might be wrong on that. I don't know. Maybe it is his first credit. But that'll be October 14th, so that'll be fun, and it'll be seasonally appropriate because we're getting into October and getting into the kind of the horror mood. So
I say the other one that I would have jumped to my mind is the one where they're all kind of merged together in that white goopy string stuff.
oh,
Ah, shit, what's it called?
Voxola, it
Yeah,
was a Latin
that
title like
feels
that,
a
but
little bit of body horror kind of like creepiness going on there.
yeah, I don't know, like that's an episode that like I mean, Star Trek Enterprise is my least favorite Star Trek show, and like I don't know, that episode to me just always it just feels like very boring. It just feels like, oh, they're just like actors with like slime on them, just like I don't know, just saying like bland dialogue back and forth.
Eh,
But
you're not
I
wrong.
the early Star Trek Enterprise and early Star Trek Voyager is like it's the hardest Star Trek for me to rewatch, but I still rewatch it all the time. Like I still like it. I just not nearly as much as I like a lot of the rest of those shows. But yeah,
Yeah.
I love what happens in like the back half of Voyager and the back half of Enterprise. I think are
Oop.
both phenomenal shows.
I don't know if you
Just
dropped off or it was me.
oh well,
Yeah.
I hope people can hear me. I'm just gonna assume everyone can. Aaron, there is
Go back.
well, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say the one that I actually love on Enterprise watching just as like a comfort show or episode is Dead Stop, one with
Hmm.
Roxanne Dawson editing it or not editing it, directing it and doing the voice of the computer. Your inquiry was not recognized. That one is like just, and that's a little creepy too because at the end the station starts putting itself back together.
Yeah, at the time we were all wondering like, oh, is this a possible like Borg origin story?
Mm-hmm. Could be. Who
But
knows? They have travel.
we did that with Leyland and Control in Discovery season 2. We're like, oh, is this gonna be like a possible Borg origin story? It's like we always try to make it like the Borg origin somehow.
They're all Borg origin stories.
Yeah,
That's the thing he did. They're all connected.
yeah, they all assimilated together into one collective.
Yeah.
Well,
All right.
speaking of the Borg, you know, there is like that big controversy over the Blu-ray release for Picard season 3, like that final episode, you know, the big episode that was supposed to be like the
Yeah.
takedown of the Borg. It on Paramount Plus, it opened with that tribute to the Next Generation opening credits, but then on the
Right.
Blu-ray release, it didn't have that.
Oh,
And now they said like they're going to fix that. They're going to put out like a new. There's going to be some type of disc exchange. They're eventually going to
I was gonna say yeah,
print a
you just
better.
mail it back or something, or
I don't know what they're going to do. They haven't said what it'll be, but they're
Hmm.
going to do something. So I'm going to hold
I
on.
haven't
I
bought it yet, so
hadn't
I'll
bought
just
that
wait.
yet. So yeah, I'll wait. I can be
Yeah.
patient. I speaking of being patient, I have my Prodigy hashtag Save Star Trek Prodigy.
Oh
I
yeah.
haven't. It's been in my mailbox for 2 days, and I'm too lazy to walk to my mailbox to grab it. I've been
Mine's on
working
the
from
kitchen
home. I
counter.
haven't left the house. I haven't had other than just walking my dog out in the yard a little bit. I haven't had need to like go all the way to my mailbox since Wednesday. But those Prodigy discs are sitting there waiting for me, so I'm
The
happy about
same
that.
as mine. Yeah, mine. It was in the mailbox, and I didn't realize that normally they put packages on the porch. So like, it's been delivered. I'm like, no, it hasn't. It's like, did somebody steal it? And then I went to the mailbox and was like, oh, they just stuck it in here. But yeah, the other thing that like the Prodigy, not Prodigy, the Star Trek that I got this week was the Yosemite shuttle from Lower Decks, which is very cool. I
From
think that Eagle Moss does really well with their or master replicas now, or whatever it considered. But they do a really good job with the larger shuttles or the larger models. You get a lot of good, really good detail, and I like that it does look like it's got key lines around it. Almost it looks drawn in some ways.
Yeah, that's like the largest scale of anything you can get is like an XL version of a shuttlecraft. Because you know you're basically getting like the biggest model of the smallest ship.
Yeah,
So you actually do get the best detail that way.
yeah. Also, shuttles have really not as much problems with nacelles breaking off or falling off. Or
Oh yeah, because they're like boxier. They're just like a
yeah,
big like rectangular prism, basically. Like yeah, I didn't think about that, but yeah, they would be sturdy.
well, This is also the first, not that we need to go into an Eagle Moss show, but the first stand that I saw that it just sits on it. There's no like clip or
Yeah,
anything.
nothing slides in or
Yeah.
anything.
I mean, it balances perfectly fine on there, but I imagine if there was, if it got bumped, it might easily slide off.
You know how often ships get rocked around in Star Trek? Like, you would never be able to just like have Eagle Moss models on a shelf in your quarters. Anytime like you're getting in a firefight with a Romulan ship, they would all just get knocked off their stands, you know? But
Yeah. I mean, we even saw in Lower Decks where they were on the planet doing the recruitment, and there was a model of the Stargazer, I think.
yeah. Yeah,
And
the
every
gazer, yeah.
time, yeah, every time somebody hit the table, like something would fall off of it. So yeah, I mean, if you can't have Mariner just hit a table, you certainly can't have a ship like firing at you and have those models survive.
And Boimler has that in his room with Rutherford. We saw him move it in there.
That's true.
But yeah, let's go ahead
So
and get into this new episode of Lower Decks. I can recap it by reading the official synopsis for Empathalogical Fallacies, and then kind of expand on that with spoilers. The name, by the way, I guess it's a Betazoid pun, so I didn't pick up on that. I was like, Empathological Fallacies. I wonder what the hell
oh,
that's trying to. But it's like, oh, it's like
empath.
pathological, but empath. It's like, okay, I get. Oh,
Yep.
haha, I see what you're doing there.
Yep.
Uh,
Very
but
clever, Mike.
the official synopsis reads: the hedonistic outlook of a Betazoid delegation infects the crew. Which that's actually a lie. That's a
Yeah.
dishonest synopsis. That's not what happens. That was the red herring that turned out to not be true. So thank you, synopsis. I can never I cannot believe
It's better than
anything
actually
that.
telling the real thing, though. I mean, you don't want it
Well,
to
yeah,
give
I don't
away.
want spoilers, and in fact, I avoid looking at stuff like that before I watch the episodes. But
Yeah.
yeah, Paramount Plus marketing just can't be trusted. First they take away Prodigy, then they lie to us in the
No, that's
episode
not marketing.
synopses.
Paramount, no. Paramount Plus marketing didn't do that. That is a
No,
different division.
they did call it the home of every episode of Star Trek.
Yeah, that's true. But they didn't take it away. And that ad campaign was made before everything happened. They didn't come up with a new one that says that. I'm not standing up for them. I'm just saying since I've worked with them recently, I know about all these different divisions and who or what actually knew or had any kind of input into that, which is very few people, which
Aaron
sucks.
Aaron just said that he's actually happy that Prodigy was taken down, and that
Thanks.
he applauds the great decision of no, that's not what he said. Uh,
I'm waiting for my check, CBS.
but yeah, so there are a return of Betazoids. Hadn't seen a ton of them, and recent. That is kind of a rare species that the Berman era, I guess, paid a lot of attention to, and then we've all kind of forgotten about in like this modern era of Star Trek. There hasn't been much going on with the Betazoids, other than Troy shows up every now and then, but that's
It'd be
pretty
nice to find out
much.
what happened during the Dominion War to them. Like that would be cool to get some sort of
Yeah,
aftermath.
there was like that mention. And I know like the novels and stuff have touched on that, but it'd be cool, like just to see something in canon, at least as like
Yeah,
a throwaway line, mention something. This was a missed opportunity. They could have mentioned something here, like
yeah.
maybe I don't know, maybe these security badasses did something during the Dominion War, but
Mm, that
uh,
could be.
but it was cool that they did something with the Betazoids. But yeah, they bring them on. They think that they're just, I guess, ambassadors, delegates. I don't know, something like along the lines of like Lwaxana Troi. It's like fancy, important people that have to go somewhere important to do important things.
Glorified
But
socialites, according to
uh,
Lynn.
instead, it turns out they are spies. They're trying to gather information on this mysterious threat blowing people up, and it does make sense you would use telepaths as spies for obvious reasons. So,
Hmm.
um, but yeah, I guess the episode ends with Freeman and now the Cerritos crew are aware of the ship that is out on the attack. So we'll see where that goes. But
And this
Aaron,
has
you
been, oh, sorry, it's been said on social media a lot, and something we had actually said a long time ago is that it looks like an agonizer, like a floating agonizer, the ship.
Yeah, it's. I don't think it.
A
I was like,
little, not a ton, but it if it resembles anything in Star Trek, it's that so far.
well, it certainly seems to be causing some agony. But Aaron, since you weren't here last week, do you want to
Yes.
give the first opening statement and just kind of say like your broad impressions on the episode before we go into the episode breakdown and talk specifics?
Yeah, I it's a bottle show, which was great. It was sort of like, we got
Oh yeah.
it's the equivalent of a TNG story where they don't leave the ship. But I like it because I was gonna say it's not high stakes, but at one point they have the Romulan neutral zone, but I don't think they really even needed that. Um, because we could just get like little slices of these people's personalities, and then by magnifying things, you can also learn a lot about people. So I laughed, I think, a lot more than some of the other episodes. I mean, I've liked all of the episodes. Just like there were times where it's just like,
Hmm.
Talin would say something, and I would just laugh out loud. So I very much enjoyed it. Talin's my favorite.
Yeah,
Talin reminds me of
she's been
myself
great.
in high school who could not understand when people were joking. So I think it's like, oh, I know how that feels.
Well, for me, I was kind of nervous when I was watching this one for the first time because when it did show the Betazoids were present and people were starting to get weird around them, I was like, oh no, are we gonna do a repeat of DS9's Fascination? Like, I just didn't want them to recycle an
Right.
idea from Deep Space Nine, kind of like how TNG, how they did the Naked Now, and it was basically just they just recycled the Naked Time, and I consider that a mistake. I think a lot of people probably think that was a mistake, but. Uh,
Voyager recycled an episode from Stargate. The
well,
race.
well, it has happened before in
Yeah.
Star Trek, so I
No,
feel
no,
like
I know.
legitimately concerned. But then I told myself after a few seconds, it's like, wait, calm down, trust lower
Yeah.
decks. This is a smart show. They don't do that, so
They always or they set it up so you really think it's going to be that, and then they flip it on its head somehow or something, which they kind of did.
they did that, and that was it was a really cool, unique way of using the universe, which I always talk about. I want these shows, yeah, like I'm for like having the canon and the history and the continuity, like use that stuff and
Yeah.
hear what they did instead of being like, oh, we can't do this because it's like a Star Trek trope, and we have all these tropes that they use too much in this franchise, but they kind of use that to its advantage by because you do have like these multiple tropes and like these recurring concepts of like, oh look, like the
Yeah.
parent shows up with this telepathic disease, and it's like, yes, but it wasn't the telepathic diseased parent you were thinking of, it was another one. So
Yeah.
it was this really cool insidery joke that I don't know, just it felt clever. It felt like, oh, they were trying to do something
Yeah.
with a very unique spin on it here. So I liked seeing that. Um
And
and
even though it
Talin
wasn't
was
the Betazoids,
great.
yes. I feel like even though it wasn't the Betazoids, I'm very happy that Captain Freeman, even under the effect of all of these mental rays or whatever, um, still tried to figure it out, and it was very close. It's like, okay, I basically you came on board. This is happening. There's a connection, as opposed to Picard, who might be like, I don't know what's going on. What could this possibly be? And Deanna would be like, I sensed pain. No, uh, but uh, but no, I really appreciate. I think at one time she yells, "I am good at my job." It's like,
Yeah. Yeah, like
it was nice
she
to
just
see her
wanted
competence, I guess is
validation
what I'm
for
getting
like
at. Yeah,
you are up to something. I was right to suspect you. But,
yeah.
um,
So
and
I
the
really
the
like
B
that.
story stuff, the like everything with Boimler and like the security team.
Mhm.
It was, I mean, that was like it's hokey and kind of corny and silly, but it was still heart touching. It kind of made
Yeah.
me tear up at the end.
Well,
I
and it
I
feels
love
very
Shax.
respected, like, it's not just security, physical security, it's also, the person's mental well-being, that's really cool.
Yeah, it was nice to see
Holistic
that
view,
side.
as Boimler said.
To kind of like flesh out his personality a little bit, and he's not just the big dum dum who wants to. He's actually pretty cool. He's like, oh, like this Bajoran anti-fascist who fought this revolution against the Cardassian occupation. Now he's kind of like this Zen badass who like, yeah, he can be like the cool dude who blows everyone up, but he can also just be like the chill guy making pottery.
Okay, I'm back. That was weird.
I didn't realize you had left, but I'm glad that you're.
Oh, everything disconnected on my end. It was like recording stopped, the chat stopped, everything was like I must have. We've been having a few internet blips, so sorry about that. If I don't answer
Oh.
something, maybe just like
If you
have
don't
been.
answer something, we'll assume you're in a communication blackout because you have Betazoid
Yes.
delegates on board.
Yeah, they came to the front door and stop all communications.
But speaking of, my appreciation of how the show was using the universe, I do think that
Mhm.
we don't no one ever tries to do cool Betazoid stuff. And I think part of it is hard. Like telepaths are pretty OP'd. That's the term that the kids use these days. But like they're too like overpowered. Like how do you cause
Yeah,
problems for them? They'd be able to overcome everything and stuff. But I really applaud
Superman in
the
the
effort to
1970s.
yeah, basically like how do you create obstacles for a character when you give them such a capable power set as like their default to
Yeah.
operate off of. But I think what they did here with these three gals was cool. There's like one thing in here where like, well, that's kind of stupid, but everything else is so much fun. It's pretty easy to forgive it.
There's one thing that I don't know if it's the same thing that I'm thinking that was kind of stupid, but it also messes with the beta canon that we were creating for the RPG game. Uh, but the one joke I'm surprised they didn't do, or somehow, like, you'd have all these gaps of time where they're just thinking to each other and they're kind of making faces and stuff like that. I would have loved to have seen like a pullout and suddenly everybody's like, what are they doing? Just like somebody's just like smiling there and not saying anything.
Oh
I
yeah.
think it could have been really a funny. There was I think it was Lois and Clark once where it was Clark doing his super hearing, but from Lois's point of view, and it just looks like this weird distracted guy kind of just wandering off. So I thought that was really funny. It's like, okay, that could have been played with here a little bit.
Nice.
Or they
Well, I
could even
guess
said like, we know you're thinking to each other.
let's get into our episode breakdown. Just
Yeah.
starting off
Go in
with
order. What a crazy idea.
starting off with the mission to escort the three Betazoids from Angel One. They pick them up at Angel One because they have their drinks have like an Angel One sticker on them.
I know
They're
it's
taking
kind of
them to
funny. It
Ryza.
reminds me of like the awards for like little kids, or like #1 soccer player or whatever.
Oh, that's funny. These drinks they remind me of in Vegas. You can get like the big
Mhm.
frozen drinks that come in like
I've
these.
seen people carrying those around.
Yeah, I've seen those at the STLV conventions, especially last year when we were
That's
at the
probably why it's in here.
maybe yeah, because when the convention was at Bally's, the Weird Hotel last year, they had a bar that served drinks in these there at that
Okay.
hotel, so they were very
Yeah, maybe it's a
popular
nod to
there.
that.
Could be. But I guess they set up Talen's dilemma here, where I guess like these Betazoid gals, they're like the straw that breaks the camel's back. Like, oh my god, I can't handle these illogical non-Vulcans. Please, I'm writing you this letter in distress. Please let me come back. I have learned my lesson. I promise I'll be a better Vulcan. So
What do
she's in
they call
like
them?
peak distress.
Over something socialites. What was it? Yeah.
Over
Anyway, but
glorified.
over glorified. Yeah, socialites, which is funny. That because it does seem like how Lwaxana Troi comes off as well.
Yeah, I mean, like she is
Times.
like no pun intended, like she's like literally like treated as royalty, like she's treated as like a member of like the royal family in real life or something. It's like you're like really important even though like you don't really like do anything, but you're just
She's
like
a
supposed to be an important
Paris Hilton,
person.
but older
Yeah. So but
and
I
smarter.
like the twist we get here where it's like, oh,
Yeah.
they actually do have some value to them. They're not like
Yeah.
worthless Lwaxana. And I know like Lwaxana eventually
No.
has some stories
Yes.
that show her there's merit to her character as well, but
But
the
they would
joke
be
of
really for a security team or an infiltration. They're the perfect people for that because they
right,
just
you would never
wander
suspect.
around and listen to people.
Yeah, like what's like a Star Trek character archetype that you would not suspect of being any threat. It'd be like, oh yeah, like a Lwaxana Troi type.
Yeah,
No one's
or
gonna.
somebody from Ryza, but going to Ryza, that makes sense.
Yeah, their destination and point of origin are interesting choices as well. And I love that like their
Hmm.
kink is that like they want the command officers that are gonna play hard to get. And so
Hmm.
they're like, "Oh no, Ransom, you're too easy." The one
Who knows? All
who's
Picard had to do would like try to go after her, and then maybe not that they'd be the same.
the blue dress one, Kathy. She's
Wendy
particularly
Malick.
thirsty
Yes,
of the three.
the actress's name who does the voice is Wendy Malick.
And then I guess the leader, the red dress one, Dolorix seems to be the leader, and then the
Yeah,
other one is Katrat in the beige dress. I laughed out loud when they were in sick bay and Dr. Tiana like grabs one of the drinks and is like, "Oh, time for surgery." Like it's kind
pounds
of
it
dumb,
down.
but
Yeah,
yeah, but the idea, so did Cations and Betazoids, they I don't know like the term ancient in Star Trek, like it just
yeah,
like a
that's
few hundred years can be ancient. Like they'll
right.
call like 20th century television, they'll call that like ancient entertainment, you know.
Right.
So but yeah, I
From
don't know like
all of
when
the
the Betazoids were being hunted by the Cations.
Yeah, I mean, literally, obviously, there's not a ton of canonical information, but like pulling together all of the information for the Kazinti and the Cations, who in Star Trek are related, um, and figuring all that out, it's like the Cations are the less violent, more social group. So to have them be the ones that went after the Betazoids is weird. So that's why I'm like, okay, I have to figure out how to wrap my head around that one and how far along, how wait along that, or how long ago that was. But that's the one
Yeah,
weird thing to me. Is just like, oh, okay, that was dumb.
that actually like that didn't bother me. I did think it was weird, but I just kind of like having like that
It
lore,
just
like
made a
oh,
dumb
like
joke.
the
Like the
beta.
whole anybody eating anybody is kind of like, it's like really low hanging fruit.
um well, I just assume like all cat like aliens are some form of carnivorous.
Yeah,
But I like the idea of like, oh, like the Betazoids and Cations, like these Federation member worlds that we don't know much of, like
right.
they
They
have
had a
like their own
past.
histories.
Yeah,
You're kind of like the Vulcans and the Endorians had like a bunch of interactions apparently, and they
right.
didn't like each other and stuff like that. So to me, like it kind of felt like more like we're getting more of that backstory on them.
Yeah.
Um,
And Cations have like synthesized Betazoid meat, which is like that's disturbing.
yeah, that part is I guess like a little weird. Like
Maybe that's a joke on her. It could be the
I think some of that stuff was jokey. Although she did
yeah,
seem to be like sincerely like
wanting to eat them.
appetized.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
like she's like literally like licking her lips and stuff and like burns Billups on accident when she's trying to treat him and stuff. So
He looks like he's
those
been doing crunches.
yeah, he's always ripped.
Uh,
And I don't know the status of like Romulan ale. Is it legal? Is it illegal? Like they can never make up their mind on if it's been
yeah.
legalized in the Federation or if it hasn't.
I
Uh,
remember at Troy's and Riker's wedding, it wasn't, I believe. I think they said they told Worf like that's why it's illegal or something.
Worf says Romulan ale should be
Oh
illegal, and
yeah,
then Geordi says it is.
it
But
is. Yeah.
before that, in season 7 of DS9, they're like, "Oh well, the embargo's been lifted, and Romulan ale
Yeah,
is
but I could
legal
see that
now."
happening just during the
Just
Dominion
during the
War.
war, or I was
Yeah.
thinking like, okay, it's legal in the Federation, but it's like on Earth specifically, it's not legal.
Mm. Which makes me wonder how strong this thing is. And there has to be different drinks in the galaxy that would be similar, and why aren't they
Yeah,
outlawed?
is it outlawed for health reasons or is it outlawed because of like like as a Cuban cigar it's
Right.
outlawed because of Cuba, not because of
Right.
anything within the cigar.
Yeah,
Uh
maybe.
but uh I don't know the
It's one of
status
those
of
things
it,
I
but
think we're not supposed to think too hard about.
the fact that Katrat has a hat that says it's Romulan L
Yeah,
a clock somewhere,
clock
it's
somewhere.
like, oh, that's kind of a I'm sure it was unintended. It kind of plays as a Jimmy Buffett tribute now.
Yeah.
Kind of the whole like it's 5 o'clock
I
somewhere.
am surprised. Well, okay. If Star Trek marketing was up, like we'd have Rachel on for this conversation because we've had that many times. Like that hat would have already been available for sale, like when this episode came out. because someone would buy it.
Um, I don't know if I guess I kind of want to buy it. I don't know if I would ever wear it.
Wear it, yeah. Well, that's the same with like I have the Kirk is a jerk shirt that I don't know if I'll ever wear, but it's fun to have like in the background of a video or something like that.
I think I would wear that at a convention. I don't
Well,
know if I'd
yeah.
wear this hat at a convention.
Well, there, whole thing. Oops. Anyway, I basically made the graphics for that, so I'm just showing it off.
But that's something that I think has more, I don't know, more practical. I feel like people are more likely to wear that shirt than wear this hat.
Yeah,
but
it is fun.
I would want it as well. At least give me the option.
Yeah.
When they're partying in the Cerritos bar, I guess you don't. It's hard to tell the first time you watch this, but when you go back and watch it the second time, they actually do a good job of. They don't show anyone getting too crazy in there until like T'Lyn comes back, and it's it's clear that like, oh, it is coming from her. She's the reason why they get too carried away. But I was suspecting Xanthi fever as well when I was watching it.
Yeah.
But I don't know. What was your reaction like when the people start getting crazy at the Betazoid party?
Well, my first reaction is like, okay, this is the Betazoids. But then, given how simple that was, and the fact that also Captain Freeman thought the same thing, and then halfway through, I'm like, okay, it's got to be something else. I don't know what. And I honestly did not think of T'Lyn at all, especially because she doesn't seem to be suffering from any kind of external signs of distress or anger or anything. She's just T'Lyn. Like, except for maybe being, frustrated by the not being able to send a message, but that didn't warrant everything that was happening on the ship.
Yeah, it's in a way, it's like because they were partying on the bar with the Betazoids, I guess that was just like, oh, like this ridiculousness of all you non-Vulcans. That's what like pushed her over the edge. And in turn, that's what made her Bendai syndromeness like make all of them dial it up to 11 and like make all of their emotions go haywire. So it's like the moment, I guess, like when Mariner is like bugging her in her quarters, like, hey, T'Lyn, do you want to come to the Betazoid party? Like that must have been like when she's trying to like transmit the message and keeps getting like the signal blocked. That must have been when like her Bendai stuff like turned on.
Did you notice that they mentioned like, come have some chocolate, get crazy? Because it's a fan, I think it's a fan thing, or it's maybe been hinted at in the books or something that Vulcans get drunk off of chocolate. And that cocoa beans can be
I didn't know
deadly
that
to them. Yeah, that was so that was kind of a neat little nod to something that isn't canonical.
It's probably something more in like the probably like the books of like the 70s and 80s when there's like a lot of like weird stuff like that. They got cooked up and some of it stuck and then some of it just didn't.
Right. Some people said that Quark had made some sort of reference to chocolate and Vulcans, and then somebody else said, no, you just remembered it wrong. It was port wine as opposed to chocolate or something. So I couldn't remember him doing that specifically.
He did try to seduce a Vulcan, the Maquis woman who is trying to buy weapons from him, but I don't know. I don't remember. He might have offered her chocolate.
I don't know. But I just thought it was kind of a fun little background bit.
Yeah, well, T'Lyn doesn't drink, but I guess she can get crazy on the chocolate fountain.
Yeah.
When she walks back in, though, like as soon as she sets foot on into the Cerritos bar, like they're already like affected by it because Ransom is crying. You got people making out. You got Miglimo throwing his bowl of soup back at the replicator and yelling at it, and he really cracked me up when he says enjoy life in hell, replicator, or whatever. Then he shoots. He like literally pulls out a phaser and shoots it. But it's actually Mariner of all people who's like I don't know, we might be getting like a little too crazy. I'm a little too hyper right now.
Yeah. If it's everything weird, it's like, is everybody yelling? It's like, this crew is always weird and yelling.
Yeah, and it's funny to
That
me that like
was so
Talin
great.
doesn't notice at first, and it's
Yeah,
like when she says that, there's like a beach ball bouncing around behind her, and
with a
people are like,
Starfleet Delta on it,
yeah,
because
people are
everything has stuff.
dancing on tables, and it's like
Yeah,
in
she
her
should notice
mind, it's
this.
like in
Is
her
this
mind,
that
it's
different?
just like this all the time.
Yeah.
It's like these are what like non-Vulcans are always like to
Oh
her. Like
no.
this is what she thinks of all of us. So, uh, but yeah, and then I guess like so here's another similarity. I didn't think of this before, but I've pointed out a couple times how they keep reminding us of like the similarities between Freeman and Mariner, and we get another
Hmm.
one here where they seem to be the only two that are affected and kind of self-aware.
Yeah.
And because Freeman figures it out and is trying to like regain control of the situation. You know, when Barnes is like, "I'm gonna take us out of
Yeah.
warp so we don't get to Risa too soon," and
And then
then
she
she's
gets
like,
upset because everybody booed her. Which is
"Yeah,"
funny.
and she's like, "Wait, you can't boo your captain."
Yeah. And she's like, why do I care?
Yeah, why do I even care about that? Like, why would that offend me? Like, why
Yeah.
would I take that seriously? And so
Well, I think
her
it
and
really shows
Mariner are the
also Mariner's growth too. Just like
yeah.
Mariner in first season would be on the tables with everybody else too.
Yeah, so she actually is like trying to be like a good crew member and a good daughter and
Yeah.
like help her mom and help Talin and help be solution oriented. Okay, let's get the Betazoids to sick bay. Let's diagnose them, scan them for the Xanthi fever. I laughed out loud and when she was like, I think all of these, whatever she said, yeah, I think all of these, crazy assholes, including myself, should be locked up in the brig until we
Yeah.
calm the F down or whatever. He's just like,
Yeah.
Tawny Newsom's delivery of all of that. Like I could just picture her in the booth having a lot of fun with all of this
That's why
stuff.
I think
Just
why this made me laugh so much, because everybody's
yeah.
lines are just sort of like over the top a little bit, but
There's a
very
lot of
on point.
funny like the Xanthi fever stuff. When you get all like to
Yeah.
Anna, it's like you okay, like at one point in the beginning, she was clearly joking when she's like, "Oh, I didn't know there was gonna be a buffet today."
Right.
Like clearly meant as a joke. And
Yeah.
then
And
by
the
the end,
Bajorans took it as a joke too. You
yeah,
could
and
tell.
then by the end she legitimately wants to eat them, so it's hard to tell like at what point did like that line get crossed. Did it go from like being a joke to being serious? It's funny to me that we can't really tell when, but when
Yeah.
she's diagnosing them in sickbay, you kept getting like all of these like, oh yeah, like no pathogens in this tasty morsel either, and all of that stuff. And then like the whole like Xanthi fever joke about like they're offended, they're like, we're not old enough for
Yeah.
Xanthi fever.
That was great. Basically menopause.
Yeah, which was I guess like and the dumb thing is like that wasn't even like the first like Betazoid menopause thing that like
Yeah,
Star
they
Trek
love
came up
doing
with.
that. Yeah.
But it's like that's like the joke of the Betazoids of like, oh, what do we know about Betazoids? It's just like, oh, like these horny old hags like Lwaxana Troi, and I guess I think that's part
It's
of like
almost like
why
some of
they
these people didn't know how to write women characters.
but I think it's also part of like why the Betazoids didn't get like really fleshed out or anything,
Yeah.
and why they didn't do. I mean, I know every now and like we'd have like Suitor and Voyager. There's the Betazoid and Tin Man, or the Betazoid and the Drumhead, and but I mean, really, like how many more examples are there beyond those? And again, like it was all like Berman era stuff. It's like no one since then has really done much with
Yeah.
Betazoids
I
other
actually
than
really liked
Troy showing
Suitor
up.
on Voyager. That was kind of interesting.
It was a neat idea,
But that
and
wasn't really necessarily about him being Bajoran specifically.
or Betazoid, but
Betazoid, I mean, sorry.
but when they do the reveal in sickbay, when they drop
Yeah.
the cover act and they take off the dresses, and I don't. What do you think about like this reveal when the like the lipstick turns into their nightsticks or whatever?
I get why we needed it for the show, but it was a little bit like, okay, this is another element that we did not need to add to it, because things were a little goofy already. Like, not goofy, but just getting complicated, I guess. There's just a lot going on. And, you've got a whole other B plot that we haven't talked about. So, but I still think it was fun. I really did like the idea of a Betazoid intelligence agency. It's like, oh, that makes a lot of sense.
Well, it did the storytelling thing that I love the most, and that's where okay, this is kind of a silly idea, like the old Lwaxana Troi thing. From I was like, oh, look how annoying she is, and she won't stop hitting on the captain and all of the like. Okay, what if like we take that and we kind of embrace it, and then we're like, oh, look, you can have all of that and be like this really cool Betazoid badass on top of it. So it's like we're not going to be embarrassed of this thing. Instead, we're going to reframe it or relens it. And, So I liked that, and
Yeah.
just the I don't know, the visual comedy of like the I guess like their action outfits, but they
Yeah.
actually seem practical. Like
Yeah.
the fancy dresses and everything are not great for
But they're
action, I
just like
wouldn't think. So
they're just basically part of that dress though. So take off the bottom,
yeah.
I swear I've seen that in something from well, like a fantasy novel or something like that, where it's just like the heroine just turns instantly into like very practical clothing. I do love the yeah, and I like the idea of the lipstick baton thing. That's great.
Yeah, that seemed like a bit much, but I like that. Oh, they're actually like really good at being these security people, and they are
Yeah,
able to take over the ship. And when they aren't undercover, they are pretty serious and good at their job.
yeah.
And they're still funny, but like I thought it was cool how they're using like their Betazoid telepathy to take over the bridge, and it's like, oh, the two of you are actually attracted to each other, and they're like, well, now that you mention it,
Maybe they
that's
didn't even know.
that's Castro, right? That was Ensign Castro, so she got
I think
promoted
so.
to lieutenant.
Yeah.
So some of the other ensigns are promoted as well.
Did somebody
But
say like Jet was demoted? Like he lost a pip or something?
well, in the first the in season 1, Jet was a lieutenant, and then in season 2 he's an ensign, and
Oh.
but he says like, oh, that was just a piece of corn. So
Oh, okay.
but they demoted they retconned he was always an ensign just with a piece of corn on his shirt.
Oh,
So
I see.
but that was a choice
Because I
to
thought we
make
saw
him
him
the
in the bar or something like that with like the wrong pips or something, but maybe I imagined that.
no, he's been an ensign since season
Okay.
2. But yeah, when he was in the on the collector ship, Kayshawn, his eyes open. They needed him to be the same rank as Mariner for that story to work
Right.
when they're on that away mission together and they have
Yes.
to escape the museum together. And he was kind of like becoming like the replacement Boimler, and then Boimler came back and they were like, "Oh, we're gonna hang out with him instead of you." So,
And
which
we
is
also wondered if
kind
like
of messed
because
up, but
when we didn't know Shax was coming back, that like, oh, maybe he'll become the security chief. Because they were sort of setting that up in Crisis Point a little bit.
yeah, well, they introduced Kayshawn in that episode as the new security chief, which was then kind of weird because then
No, I
Shax
know,
just
but I
came
mean,
back and
leading up to that point is what I was
mm.
getting to. It's like I was like, oh, he's going to be the security person for some reason. Then they
Oh
brought
yeah,
in
because you
somebody
see him.
completely
Yeah, because that Crisis Point episode, he like at the end when he's like the captain like orders him like throw the hologram captain orders him to
right.
throw Boimler off the cliff or something. Yeah. Um. But we find out here on the bridge when the Betazoids take over that like, oh, like their emotions are all out of whack too. And I liked this. I liked this escalation of the stakes where
1960s neutral zone map, which is hilarious.
I liked that too. But speaking of it being something from the 60s, I was like, okay, this is a creative choice that's more like TOS than TNG to me in a good way. And
Hmm.
where I feel like the original series always remembered, not always, but it often remembered to ratchet up the stakes. And normally if you look at
Yeah.
like a TOS script, it is like a pretty good example of pacing. That is
Hmm.
pretty like well structured television, and you would have like the stakes get more serious, building up towards the climax. And it's something like I wish TNG would have done like a bit more, when TNG would kind of get wrapped up around like this concept, and then, well, let's look at it from this angle, and then we'll look at it from this angle, and then we'll look at it from
We'll have
this
a
angle, and it's
conference.
yeah, and it's like no, like you should have something where like you have to figure this out quickly because something's gonna blow up or someone's gonna
Right.
die, or there like a continent's
Well,
gonna
that did
get
happen with
destroyed, or
the time loop where they kept happening. They
well,
didn't
yes.
figure it out in time.
Yeah, like and sometimes TNG got it right, but I just feel like it was something like TOS was better at, and I like that
Yeah.
here. It's like, oh, like the crossover into the neutral zone would actually be terrible. It would probably lead to the destruction of the ship. So we thought that we were just being taken over by these Betazoids, but it turns out it's even worse than that. We're being taken over by the Betazoids, but they're going insane also. So
And I
I
think
loved
for a
all.
22-minute show, you kind of need something more like this rather than the whole drawn out, let's carefully
Yeah,
investigate
something
this
immediate.
phenomena kind of thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So
something that
this works.
yeah, something that the audience can comprehend quickly. Just my problem with it is it makes absolutely no sense that somehow going from Angel 1 to Beta Z, there'd be like a shortcut to go through the neutral zone. Like there's I
Yeah, that seems strange.
that like that Bandai syndrome coming out of Tallinn like really messed up their brains to make them think that was a that was a good idea. Is the only thing I can
Maybe
think
that's
of.
what it was. Yeah,
But I
that
don't
could be.
know. I don't know what else that could have caused that. But
I'd have to look at a map and figure out where those things are. Like, they don't tend to do radically incorrect like things with the maps and placings
this
lately.
is
It seems like,
this is radically incorrect.
but
There's
this one
no
is,
way
yeah.
to there's no way that that would have gone to
Betazed is near the neutral zone, though. I think
yeah, but you wouldn't like
he would
go
cross
into
into it.
Romulan
Right.
space to get
Also,
there.
space is 3-dimensional, and they don't seem to remember that most of the time either.
Yeah, maybe like they're going like through the neutral zone, but they're actually going like under Romulan space
Yeah.
because somehow maybe there's a secret
Is it like air,
wormhole there that takes you to Betazoid. I don't know, or
or
Beta
is it like
Z.
airspace rights, where it's like it's only so far above the ground, it's owned by so and so, and then above that, it's whatever. Like for airports or
But yeah,
countries.
they're just got their brains scrambled from Tallinn's Bendai
Yeah.
syndrome. Let's talk about the B story stuff for a little bit.
Yeah.
Just I guess like the stuff before like the red alert when they spring into action, which is I guess Boimler's dilemma where he's I guess as a lieutenant he feels he's obligated to know the names of everyone on the ship.
Seems weird. Yes.
Those people he was naming, they're all characters. They're all
Hmm.
like known characters in the show. So
So I
I
guess MERP is a species, maybe,
yeah, there's
or a
been
common
this
family name.
there's been this alien species on the show since season 1 that they've never said the name on screen. I don't, but I guess they're called MERPs. But because we had Big MERP in 403 in a Cradle
Right.
of Exelon. But I guess the animators must have names for them. You have to label the file
Well,
something on the titmouse
the,
computer.
but the name was in the episode with the Pandronian, where they ran the drills.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right. So they
It was
had
up on the
the
board.
MERP name came from
Yeah.
there. So they had I don't think they ever said it until Boimler called them Big MERP in that up
The sleepy MERP is a
in
weird.
Vexilon. Yeah, and it's weird that he's like, come on, it begins with an S, but okay, Sleepy Merp, but okay, that's kind of silly. But then he was the perfect candidate for Rutherford's program, the
Which is
Sinister
kind
the
of funny,
program.
given that he was part of that other program with the getting his implant for the Texas. What the hell was the guy's name? The
Buen
Admiral,
Amigo.
but Amigo. Thank you. Yes, he was part of his project as well.
Yeah. So this one a bit less sinister, but yeah, it's
But the
all
lighting becomes
Shax's.
sinister. I like that.
It's just all Shax's trying to give Boimler a day off
Yeah.
with slam poetry
Yee.
and it's all like security themed things, but I don't like it. It's weird that like this is what they all do for fun, or like this is what they would think like Boimler would want to do for fun. But I don't know. I guess Shax's school of security. It's like it is very like I don't know. I Zen is the word I keep wanting to go to.
Mm.
But they're kind of like a Zen like samurai who can like he like lives in like a life of like peace and balance and nature, and then he can just be like this like badass warrior when he needs to be or something. But
They're I keep bringing I somehow find a way to bring this up a lot, but in our improvised Star Trek show, our security guy Bodie Cooper was one of the like this Zen kind of like really centered kind of guy. So it's just like this. There's little bits and pieces in here that remind me of that, which was kind of fun.
We had a Hubbled is the name of the security officer. This a woman
Hmm.
security officer, but she's the one singing the Wharf poem.
Yes. Well, she's not singing it necessarily. She's well, I could kind
Or
of sing.
I guess okay, reciting. Yeah. That's true. You don't sing slam poetry. You slam it. I guess right. Is that is
Yeah.
slam the verb in slam poetry? It's got to be right. I
This
don't.
reminded me of last season, the when they're at the Deep Space Nine and Mariner and Jennifer are in the salon, and they're doing the poetry.
Oh yeah,
It's
yeah.
kind of like that.
That was terrible. Yeah, that was worse.
Yeah.
I would say it honestly is a bit too similar to that.
Yeah.
They
I mean,
probably should
even
have
the
done something other because what was the yeah, there was some type of poetry. There's some type of poetry reading in that.
yeah, it was about the like I am the Enterprise or something like that. I can't
Yeah, it
remember
was
exactly.
Castro. Castro was talking about
Yeah.
like the am I in the Enterprise or is the Enterprise in
Enterprise and
me?
yeah.
Because she served on the Enterprise at some point. Probably the E, I guess, but
Yeah.
Boimler did pretty good on the charades, like guessing it was Odo, but it's like okay, yeah. When Kayshawn's making the motion of like diving into a bucket, it's like okay, yeah. That if it's security officer charades, I guess that should be
Right.
obvious. But um,
I wonder if Chekhov would be in there somewhere because eventually he becomes security.
yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, because there's otherwise because that Malcolm Reed is the one they have in the box, but it's like
Right.
he would be kind of the more iconic, I guess,
Hmm.
security officer since there wasn't. Because when people think Chekhov, they probably don't think security. They probably are more likely to think navigator.
Yeah. I love this box. Oh, we'll talk about the Gorn eggs. Never mind.
How tall must Shax be? Like we've seen Boimler in live action. He's
But
a
he
tall
shrinks
man.
back. Yeah, but he changes his height
When he,
changes back when they come back. So I
when he
don't
goes
know.
to the 24th century,
Yeah.
he's smaller, I guess.
Could you?
But
Yeah, he'd have to be like what 7.5 feet tall for that to work, probably.
yeah, I just
Chax.
assume the animation style does not reflect like scale correct. I mean, like their eyes wouldn't be like that percentage of their face in
Well,
in
that was
live
the joke at
action
the
either.
end of the
So
live action one where it's like, "Are my eyes huge?" And it goes blink blink
yeah,
because she plays it.
right.
So
So,
yeah,
but it did look funny. Just Boimler, little ass Boimler crawling around on Shax. But poor Boimler, he thinks he's about to like learn like some. He's like, I'm about to become a man. I'm gonna learn like Shax is gonna teach me like all the secret fighting moves, and instead he's just putting together puzzles and getting his tarot card reading and not doing any of the exciting stuff he wanted to do.
speaking of tarot cards, I got this a couple weeks ago. They have, and these came out in 2020. Never knew about it. They are TAS tarot cards. So there are apparently 22 original tarot cards, and there are 22 episodes of TAS. So each
Yeah,
episode is a card,
is
and it
that
comes
is
in.
tarot cards supposed to be 22? Is that like the
A bit. Apparently, it's like a version of it is.
oh
It's like the maybe it's the oldest one, or I'm not exactly sure. I'm not a huge enthusiast, but it came in a little box with even kind of got the delta that's more triangular.
that
So
is cool. I
yeah,
didn't know anything about that. I've
and they
seen
have TNG
someone
and they have all the other. I think they have the
okay.
other ones.
I've seen the original series ones, but I didn't know
Yeah.
they did any of the other shows. I didn't know that they did the animated series. That's really cool.
It's funny. I sent it to Dayton Ward. He goes, "I don't think this is real," and then I sent him a link to buy it. He's like, "Oh, okay. I guess it is real. I don't remember seeing this." I'm like, okay, I don't feel so bad now. If you didn't see it, I didn't see it. And
Yeah.
that's cool.
Who did
But
see
yeah,
it?
I love their tarot cards. They're great. And is it just me or does the lettering seem to be made up of people? Like kind of stand like do it's hard to tell there, obviously, but it almost looked like people doing like gymnastics or
Oh,
something. Like two
like when you
people.
like like when I was in high school, we were the Rockdale Tigers, and during football games, I'd like run out on the field and like spell tigers with my body like a cheerleader.
Yeah.
I
Well, like the
thought it
O
was
looks like it's
cool.
got one person doing the top part of the curve and another person being the bottom, like
Yeah,
almost like gymnasts or something. So it's like, but I
maybe.
don't know if that was the point or if it's just the way it's drawn just sort of looks like that. You can't really tell, I don't think, unless we get a
Yeah, the resolution is not gonna be good
yeah.
enough, but
But anyway, I thought that was interesting. I always love the like just the little graphic design elements that they add to things that don't necessarily need to be designed that much. Like that box in the background of the puzzle. You've got stuff on the side of the box and everything.
Yeah, it looked like something that you would actually like see on a shelf in a store. Like, oh, that looks
Mm-hmm.
like it could be official Star Trek merchandise. It looks like something that I would one day be able to go to startrek.com and click add to shopping cart.
Well, if you notice that the angle on this, I mean, it is similar-ish to this is their actual branding, the way they do that.
Yeah.
So
A
they might
little
have been,
45-degree angle across.
yeah, they might have been trying to kind of mimic that.
Oh,
The exciting world of box graphic design. That's what you come here for. Who needs
let's talk about
story?
the I guess the reveal of T'Lyn as the cause of the problem.
Yes.
The Betazoids tied everyone up in sick bay, but T'Lyn, sorry, not T'Lyn,
To Anna.
Ta'ana's Betazoid hunger, I guess, drove her to break free.
Ah.
So, but that allows Mariner and T'Lyn to see on the tricorder, like, oh, the actual like psychic interference is coming from you, T'Lyn, and it's Bendai syndrome. And while that's going on, Freeman's able to divide and conquer on the bridge, though, and turn I guess use the Betazoids' cattiness against one another to turn them on one another. But well, she remembers Dolorix being called a
Yeah.
sanctimonious
Sanctimonious.
buzzkill by
Yeah.
Cathew, and that created enough distraction for her to hit the red alert button. And
That was very smart of her to do that too. That's kind of
yeah.
cool.
And as soon as she does that, like the security team scrambles, and kind of the rest of the ship is kind of put on notice. But they have the Tindy and Rutherford. They don't get much to do. They're kind of I mean, they become the bad guys because Star Trek brain altering weird anomaly thing. So they get to be the bad guys in this episode when they're kind of the mob chasing T'Lyn with torches and pitchforks. But they're kind of sidelined with, I guess, like the addition of T'Lyn. I do feel like we're getting maybe slightly less Tindy, slightly less Rutherford this season.
Yeah.
But I don't
did
mind.
like.
I love T'Lyn so much. We still gave Tindy a big episode last week, and Rutherford
Yeah.
got a ton of substance added to him in season 3. So I feel like the bases are covered well enough that it's not a
Yeah.
big issue.
If there were like 22 episodes a year, and Rutherford got that one, yeah, that would be like, wait, what are you doing? But since there are only 10 episodes per season, and it doesn't feel that long ago, back in the story wise.
Yeah, and in universe, just based.
Yeah.
Sorry about that, but in universe, just based on the star dates and comments from Mike McMahon, we're seasons 2, 3, and 4 all take place within the same year. So, which isn't that crazy. We used to get 26 episodes in a year, so I think we're just kind of doing like, hey, 26 episodes equals about a year on Lower Decks. I think Strange New Worlds is doing the same thing. Both seasons 1 and 2 both take place in 2259. I might have said one of those numbers wrong. Sometimes I get like 22s and 23s switched back and forth.
Jill in the chat says, I feel like Tenderford and Mariner Boehm's duos have been really sidelined since episode 1.
Yeah, there's some truth to that. There is some truth to that. But we're getting to see everyone have cool interactions with T'Lyn in the meantime.
Yeah.
So, that first season
we also get a
of Seven
Kazinti
of
in the
Nine,
hallway.
that when the first season of 7 and 9 on Voyager, she does like she becomes the main character of a bunch of episodes right off the bat. They were really pushing her.
Yeah.
I guess I don't have the screenshot of Taylor in the hallway.
There's a picture of or a scene just briefly as they're running into the chasing them into that room. Taylor is like kind of scrunched down in the hallway, and Stephen pointed out that it looks like the sad telepath from TAS. The way his face looks like.
Yeah, he's got the droopiness.
Yeah.
Going on.
I guess that's what Kazinti look like when they're haggard and tired or something like that. Maybe that's just no matter what you whether you're a telepath or not, that might just be what Kazinti look like when they've had
that's
it.
when they're having a bad day.
Yeah.
I would look like that pretty regularly if I was a Kazinti. Well,
So this
what
is
I
not her room, right?
no,
This is
they
just
say
a
that
room.
they're chased into a closet. So I
Yeah, and
think
then
they're
when they break through, Rutherford's like, "Why are we at your door?" So it's sort of like, "Oh, wait." I think he's just saying that because maybe he didn't know where he was at, but it was sort of like it was weird. It felt like a
yeah.
didn't quite
Because
match.
it's not the same. I keep saying set as if it was like shot in live action, but it's not the same
Right,
background. It's not the same background as when she was in her quarters earlier. I
right.
guess I should say background and not set. But what I like though is that like the climax of this episode just comes from Mariner and Talin's conversation. It's just like
Hmm.
Talin opening up, showing her vulnerability, just being like, yeah, like Sokel was right and something's wrong with me, and then Mariner being supportive and being like, no, man, fuck Captain Sokel. You're Vulcan, like Spock's dead. You're Vulcan as a motherfucker. I love like the comedy of like this very serious Vulcan character just saying the line, I suppose by the transitive property, I too must be Vulcan as a motherfucker. But
That
I
will be
like that.
beeped for Drawn to Trek.
Yeah, yeah. But I just love that that's the emotional climate. It's like this is why Star Trek works better. I would love to get like another Star Trek movie at some point. Don't get me wrong. I'd
Yeah.
love to cover one. But there hasn't been a movie since 2016 when I started doing Tex-Trek. So I've never
Oh,
gotten to
but
cover a movie.
the new one's coming any day now.
But it's but like with a movie like you wouldn't be able to have like the climax of your story be like just two people having a
Yeah.
conversation and a heart to heart chat in a sitting on the floor in a closet, and in TV you can do that.
And I love that, like I said, if Mariner hadn't been emotionally where she's at now, this all could have gone much worse. She would not
Hmm.
be, and it's kind of cool because they're both the mavericks of their
Right,
respective ships.
she's the Vulcan
Mariner.
Mariner.
Yeah. So just the fact that those two have kind of formed a bond and they're, she's helping her in this episode was really nice. I thought it was like, it's a good pairing.
Yeah, and it was funny, just like Tawny's lines, like
Yeah.
"fuck Captain Sukal," and like all of that stuff was funny. The this is a rare type of problem that can't be kicked was funny.
Yeah.
Uh,
That's great.
so
And
I
she
liked all that.
obviously seemed very frustrated at that moment. Like she did a really good job of conveying that.
Oh, and the balance
Yes, as
thing
Joel
with
said,
like
growth.
that was cute when Talin could. Talin felt responsible for like I'm the reason that you're all messed up, and when she
Yeah.
mind melded with her and was able to like balance her emotions
Yeah.
and but like the line like ooh being balanced feels pretty good. It's like that would be nice
Yeah.
if someone could come. I want someone to come like recenter me
Yeah.
like that. Like uh
I could have used that this week. And I do love whenever Mariner mentions Vulcan, her hands automatically go to make the Vulcan salute
she does
on both
the
hands.
yeah. Don't give me that sassy Vulcan salute.
Yeah.
But it was friends being supportive to each other is
Yeah.
what fixed things.
And that's what's really cool about this show is just like that, like you said, this one that can just be an episode essentially. Um, but when you don't have like gigantic stakes like TNG sometimes did, you can get these kind of stories, which is really nice.
Um. Well, let's talk about I guess the
Oh, by the way,
the
oh no, you would probably do that in the Gorn eggs. There's like the table in the background here.
oh, what was going on with the table?
Oh, it's a folding. It looks like a card table. Folds like just like you see it like at some point folded up, but it is the shape of the display uh, desk or whatever in engineering in TNG. It's that kind of barbell almost shaped where the master system display sits.
Mm-hmm.
So it's that design, but it's just a folding card table,
Oh, I didn't
which
know.
is actually pretty funny.
Okay, that's neat. I don't know why they thought
It's
about
standing up
going.
against a wall at some point before this scene.
Yeah, I like that they have like folding tables and folding
Yeah.
chairs. It's just I don't know. I think that's the quaintness of that. But yeah, let's talk about like the I guess like the security team, like when they go into red alert. Like I like that when Boimler is just like yelling about like I just want want some action, and then
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
he's kind of overwhelmed by it when
Be
they
careful for what you ask for.
yeah. Well, oh, that would, yeah, like you could use that line now, like be careful what you wish for, Lieutenant, because he's a lieutenant now,
Yeah.
so it tracks. But when they do spring into action, so okay, like these silly people that you saw like putting puzzle pieces together and doing charades, and now they're Kayshawn looks cool. I don't. It's just cool and weird and alien that a Temerian would run like that, but I
It's like
liked
a
it.
speed run in a video game. We're like,
I now that we can keep using that, like whenever they have
yep.
Kayshawn in some action in the future, they have like a run animation for him now that they can use. It's funny to me that Boimler calls a Type 3 phaser a big phaser.
Big phaser. Because it's true. They're both just phasers. I mean, it's like,
I guess it's kind of gatekeepery, but I get like the fan instinct to like if I heard like a fellow fan watching this and they were like, "Oh, it's a big phaser," I'd be like, "It's called a Type 3 phaser." So it's just like it's like really funny to have like a Star Trek character actually like, oh, the phasers, big phasers.
so the regular phaser can like just completely decimate something. What does the bigger one do? Decimate it faster? Like, I don't like.
It has a bigger battery. It doesn't drain as
Oh, okay.
fast.
I can see that. I
That's
know at some
actually
point they turned it into like a transporter gun, which was kind of cool.
yeah, that was in Picard. But they actually said in Lower Decks in season 1 or 2, I think Boimler actually says like a phaser rifle is just the same as a phaser, just like it's just bigger. But it doesn't really do anything else.
Yeah.
It's just bigger.
But that was fun. I like that.
And I liked the Tiana thing when Shax has to try to like get her under control.
Let's do one of our focus exercises from Dr. Miglimo. And it's like, I hate those things. she does basically what my cat did to my hand last night. Like, it's like,
Yeah,
what are
that's
you
rough.
doing? Yeah.
And I just said their name a second ago. I guess I have to scroll back through my notes to look at it again because I'm a dumb like that. But
I
Hobbled.
cannot remember their names.
Uh, well, out of the security people, Hobbled
Oh,
had the dumb Worf poem, but then we
yeah.
see that she is
It worked.
she's so calm that her mind cannot be read.
Or they're just reading bad beat poetry.
Is that the technique?
Yeah.
But they stopped the ship from crossing the neutral zone, and it was funny to see like the frustrated Romulans.
Yeah.
I like those blinking red lights on the marking the neutral zone.
Yeah. Again, like it's two-dimensional thinking, but it's funny.
Yeah, and it's
Like
also
the
like
odds
the
that you would
neutral
be there to
zone.
see that blinking red light is pretty low.
The neutral zone should be like several light years across. Like there should be entire solar systems that exist in the neutral zone. Like ships shouldn't be able to like come right up to the neutral zone and be like
Yeah.
nose to nose, but they always show that happening.
Right.
So
Yeah.
maybe there's like some
You think
segments
there's
of the
like a
neutral
what is it?
zone that are
Is it demilitarized
thin.
zone? Yeah.
Yeah, that was
Yeah,
Dave
maybe.
and mine's theory is that like basically like the setup they have in at the beginning of BSG, where it's like here's like a neutral spot where we can talk to the Cylons.
Right.
There would have to be like
Yeah,
these little
yeah.
like neutral spots where you could talk to Romulans that they probably set up
Yeah.
at the end of the war. So I guess that's how we can explain these. But yeah, I felt bad for the Romulan crew who they just wanted
No.
to get in a standoff with a Federation
I love
ship.
the one
But
that has sort of a look of the Denise Crosby Vulcan, Romulan.
oh yeah, there's one with fair hair like Sayla.
Yeah.
That is interesting because
It
we
looks
typically
yeah.
don't see that, but we know from like
Maybe it's
Picard
his
and other
sister.
shows that like there's like not all Romulans have like the like jet black hair. Like
Right. I
they
just like
don't
the
all
bob haircut and everything. Look very, very Sela.
and what I was saying earlier about like being able to recycle assets on the show is they did
Mhm.
have a they've had to show Romulan ship interiors before. We've seen like Romulan bridges before. I guess like going
It would
all
be
the way
interesting to go
back
back
to
and match them and see if they like in TAS. It was like maybe because I also saw it enough, but it's super easy to recognize. Okay, that's literally this one from this episode that's reused
Hmm.
like 5 other times. But I don't know. Like it's possible that this is the exact same layout as something from 3 seasons ago that we saw once. They just
Yeah,
reused it.
I guess the first time they showed like the interior of a Romulan ship, it would have been in Veritas. But now I'm thinking like, did we actually see like on board the bridge of any of those? We saw like the Romulan bird of prey, but I don't think the warbirds. I don't think we saw the interiors on any of them. So
I think the only ones that we saw the one in Crisis Point, but that was like in the holodeck.
yeah, um,
I think we saw something before that. Anyway, but I'd be curious just to find out if they really reuse it like that, or if they just sort of like, okay, we know what this is going to look like,
well, this is how it looked a couple episodes ago when
so we have
the
reference.
mysterious threat blew up the
Yeah.
vertical D-Deridex. I think it looked like this, but
Yep.
yeah, just cool that they're able to, you know, it
No
makes it
captain's
easier to
chair.
keep
Oh no, there's
using
in
the
the background.
universe.
Yeah.
And then
There's somebody
we end
pushing
with
a cart. You go back one picture there. No. Oh, there. Yeah, it is. It's normally those things float, don't they?
yeah, it's floating. It's just it's like
Oh, is it? Oh, okay.
half a foot above the
I
like
thought she's
there's
wheeling
like
a
a little
cart. I'm like, that's
shadow under
interesting.
there.
Got it.
Yeah, the Cerritos arrives at Ryza so they can drop off the Betazoids, and then Shax kind of explains to Boimler about how, oh yeah, we were just looking after your emotional well-being, and that's part of being a security officer on a Starfleet ship. And I really liked that message and what that said about
Yeah, the whole
Lower Decks
holistic.
specifically, but just that's something I'd kind of like to see that reflected more. Like I'd like to see like Star Trek, like in a more serious like live action show. I think that you could still kind of use that concept.
I think so. I noticed that no one seemed to, I mean, obviously we didn't have a lot of time at this point either, but no one asked for shore leave on Risa. Like, I think they had enough partying at this point.
Yeah, they just all, oh, we just want to have like a solid day of work and then clock out and go home and sleep on
Yeah.
the couch. We're all shore leaved out. But they show Freeman their picture of the mysterious threat. I keep calling it a mysterious threat because that's what Rutherford was like. No mysterious threats in the season premiere. And then when it cut to the ship blowing people up for the first time. But they have like an image, like an outline, like they know like the shape, which as you were pointing out, Aaron, I guess kind of resembles a original series Agonizer from Mirror Mirror. But I think that's more coincidence than intention. But yeah, I don't know. What do you think about like now they're starting to pay attention to this recurring threat out there? Or did I lose Aaron? This happened to Dave sometime. Maybe it's something I'm doing wrong. Y'all remember when he would vanish?
Oh,
Okay, he's back now.
my Wi-Fi vanished, which is weird.
Oh, okay,
It's
that's
like,
what it. I was just telling people, Aaron. I was just like, I wonder if it's something I'm doing wrong. The beauties of live entertainment.
sorry about that. Yeah, it's just strange. It's like suddenly my Wi-Fi it wasn't on the list of things to connect to. I don't know why. It's literally like I can almost reach it. So I have to figure out what's going on there. So yes, sorry, we saw the alien ship.
Yeah. So what do you think with the recurring mysterious threat now? Like the character. I guess they don't have like a name to put to it, but I guess they kind of have a face. So it's like, okay, well, we know what this thing looks like. We know that it's going around blowing up ships, so it's on their radar.
Well, we're halfway through. We're in episode 5. So I would say by 7, probably, we will have a pretty decent idea, because then that will build towards a climax in episode 10.
Yeah.
Just by pacing wise, that's kind of what I'm guessing. I could be wrong, but I know
it's
that
something for the finale though. Like
yeah, there's an episode with Badgie coming up, I think. Like in the title.
Well, he's in the trailer.
He's in the
Badgie's
trailer too,
in the trailer.
So that doesn't seem like it's connected to this necessarily.
I mean, if it's someone we know, it kind of has to be Badgie or Section 31 and Brett.
Yeah.
Well, Agamus is locked up and Peanut Hamper's locked up, and I don't like.
No, Peanut Hamper got like pulled away at the end of last season in the final.
That was Badgie.
No, it was Peanut Hamper, and the green.
It was Badgie and Rutherford's.
Was it?
Implant.
But I thought it was also Peanut Hamper was there. Okay, maybe not.
No, Peanut Hamper is locked up in Daystrom and next to Agamus, and Agamus is like her
Maybe
cellmate.
they figured out a way to control something from there. I don't know. That'll be interesting to find out.
But I
To me,
mean,
it's like it. I know it kind of bothers a few people that it's like, oh, like just tell us what it is, but it's so little of the. I mean, it's not. It would be nice, I guess, if it was tied deeper into the plot. Like the Orion episode worked pretty well because we had an Orion ship in the beginning, and that kind of thematically tied at least to the rest of the episode. Um, but I think it'd be nice if it was more integrated. But since it isn't, it's also pretty easy to ignore. Like I'm like, okay, we'll figure out what it is
yeah,
eventually. It's
and
kind
I
of
don't
dropping
even
some
know
bread.
if I need it to be more integrated. I'm fine with it kind of being like the separate thing
Yeah.
that's like tacked on there. Like that's like I know like a cool thing for me as a kid growing up was like in Superman comics, and they were building up to the reveal of the character Doomsday. They
Hmm.
just like end like these comics of these Superman stories with this like showing like this fist punching its way through it was like through the ground. It was like Doomsday was like
Yeah.
underground. He was like digging his way up, and it would say Doomsday is coming, and like no one knew what that meant.
Right.
But it's just like it was building up to something, and it was exciting. And part of the anticipation was the mystery of like, oh, I can't wait till they reveal this.
I'm
So
curious when they do reveal it and we figure out what it is. If we're going back, we would actually go, "Oh, that's the giant clue we missed," or whatever.
maybe. I think they
Fe-
haven't.
Feels like not, but
Yeah,
that's just
I
me.
feel like they haven't dropped many hints, but if they did, then it went over my head. So which might be the case, but time will tell. Um, we end with like the moment of Talen making the decision to stay on the Cerritos, and she hugs Mariner, but won't give another hug to Tindy. She's like, no, I only have one embrace in me. Mariner took
Yeah,
it,
I
so
allowed a
no,
single embrace. It's like you have to warn me when these things happen, and then it's like, maybe we can go do some pottery. It's like I have no interest in that activity.
yeah, I feel that a lot. Like a lot of times people suggest like maybe we should go do I don't know. Uh I'm I'm around a lot of people who like axe throwing. That's like a big trendy activity. I kind of do want to
Hmm.
try that, but yeah, I
I
just
do
feel
too.
like
It's here in LA. We have it. It's called LA Axe. Ha ha ha.
nice.
LAX there, yeah. And one of my friends worked there for a while, so I think he has like discounts now where they go. So I would like to try that sometime. Sorry, but you were like have no interest in doing it. It sounds like
I know. I think I would actually do that, but I don't know. I was trying to think of something that's like real trendy that I
right.
actually would like not want to do, but
I just like when Mariner brings the water. And it's like it's your favorite, cocktails. Like, don't get too emotional. She's like, was I expressing emotion?
that good
And then
old
and then Mariner just sort of stares at her. It's like, oh, you were joking. Like,
that good old room temperature water.
mm, don't
My
go too
drink of
crazy with that.
choice.
Yeah,
Yeah, like give her the
I do
most
not like
boring
room temperature
beverage
water.
possible.
Ugh.
But I love that they don't draw out the Talen making the choice to stay on the Cerritos. I've
Yes.
mentioned it several times. I was just bringing it up last week how like okay, eventually Talen's gonna have this arc where she's gonna make like this realization of like I actually don't want to go back to my Vulcan crew. I want to stay
Which
here
means
with
then
these
they will try and take
goofballs.
her back at some point, probably.
Oh, probably, but now we'll have to deal with the drama of like Talen
Yeah.
fighting to stay on the
I mean, that could be
Cerritos.
the part of the season finale.
Yeah, or she has to make the choice. It's like, which is a very Star Trek staple thing. It's like, hey, Riker, do you want to be a captain on your
Yeah.
own ship, or do you want to stay on the Enterprise under Picard's shadow for another 20 years of your life? Um, but they
I
live
think
so
if you
long in the
phrased it
future, it
that
doesn't
way, he
matter.
might not have like actually chosen to stay.
Well, it all worked out for. Actually, like it didn't work out for him. He had like the tragic death of a son, and all kinds of horrific things happened. But, uh,
Work out for a lot of
it'll
them. Yeah.
he stayed living on a planet that him and his wife both hated for
I
years.
I will take their
Um,
place then. I am more than happy to take that like cabin and just get away.
yeah, cooking pizza in the forest doesn't seem that bad to
Yeah.
me, but what have you. But no, I like that they don't draw this out too long. It's like, okay,
Yeah,
it's obvious, I saw it coming, but now that we've moved past it, it's like, oh, cool. Now what does Talon do next? I don't know. This is
yeah.
exciting. So
I
very
think
well
that's one of the
done.
things
Happy to
that
see that.
Lower Decks does well is like, oh, okay, this was expected. We knew it was coming, but it was still really engaging to watch. So there's something that to be said for it's almost like it's it makes it almost more comfortable in some ways. It's like, okay, if you can guess what's happening, it's sort of nostalgic for the TNG era without being so overtly, like season 3 of Picard.
What do you mean?
But you get sort of similar, like we're talking about these scenarios and stuff. They're not exactly the same, but they have you have a feeling of familiarity with it. And then, like when Freeman guessed that, oh, it's the Betazoids, um, that's what we thought too. But it still was fun to
Right.
watch. Sometimes when people do that, you're like, okay, that was expected. That was boring. Do something different. But
Yeah,
that
it doesn't
I
it
don't feel
doesn't
like we
play
get
it
that
too
with this.
safe. Yeah. Like
Yeah.
it doesn't it's the show it still takes risks,
Yes.
which I think is also important. I like
Yeah.
Star Trek to go bold. And
Cool. Do we have Gorn eggs this week? Oh wait, yeah, this is the wrapped up. Yep, they take off.
yeah, so if you don't have any other final thoughts, then we can go into the
I
Gorn egg section. So this is
Yeah, I
the
don't. I really enjoyed it, and I think it was. It's one of those episodes I'm sure I'll go back to every once in a while, and just watch because it's a nice little self-contained, fun thing.
yeah, I've enjoyed season 4 a lot. This is season 3 was my favorite season of the first 3 seasons of Lower Decks. Um and so far I'm liking season 4 just as much as season 3. I think I'm because of the addition of T'Lyn, honestly, I think if this say had been the end of season 4, if it had just been like a 5-episode season, I guess like even with it only being 5 episodes, I love T'Lyn so much. I'd be like, I like this just as much as season 3. So unless they really drop the ball in the back half of the season, I think season 4 is likely to end pretty in pretty high standings in my book.
Yep.
But let's go into the Gorn egg section of the show. These are the Easter eggs, in jokes, and continuity connections we thought were worth mentioning. But just starting off, yes, obviously having Betazoid delegates, clear cut callback to Lwaxana Troi, who would show up to annoy Captain Picard on TNG or Constable Odo on DS9, and then the locations of their mission or whatever. We have Angel One, the very matriarchal planet.
The
Where
unfortunate clothing planet.
yeah, where they make the men wear these ridiculous skimpy little outfits, and and Ryza, the vacation. Everyone runs around like you're in, I don't know, you're on the beach in Hawaii basically all day every day. But yeah, I guess if you're these older Betazoid ladies, they're like the cool places to go get crunk. When Boimler was all excited to go into this program with Shax, he thought he was going to learn Sun Katse. That was the sport, I guess martial arts, I guess like more like professional wrestling than anything else.
Oh,
But
this thing. That's where I heard that
that
name.
was the sport from Star Trek Voyager when
Why
the
would he know
Rock.
about that? That seems weird.
Well, the Voyager is back in the Alpha Quadrant, so all
Yeah,
those
and they're
stories are.
super like historically. Yeah, that's true.
They were always scanning. They were
Yep.
always recording, documenting, talking to people. So there's
Well, this was broadcast, so they probably had recordings literally
yeah.
of the show. Anyway, continue. Sorry.
But yeah, that was back when Star Trek and WWF both came on UPN, and so we had a crossover where Seven of Nine could fight the Rock, and it was pretty cool. There's a nice reference to not just to Star Trek the Motion Picture, but to the director's cut, kind of the special edition version of the motion picture from 2001 that just got like the 4K upgrade last year and 22.
Because at one
But
point we just saw just legs and not connected to any higher up. I feel like they weren't supposed to crop it like that, but they did.
Yeah,
in the
you
original.
in Talin's quarters, you see a painting of the Vulcan statues that were
Yeah.
during the Colinar sequence in the motion picture when Spock is about to complete his training. He's him and the Vulcan priestess and those monks behind her. They're standing under these statues.
Yep. Right
The
before it cuts back to San Francisco, or cuts to San Francisco.
Xanthi fever making everyone crazy. That goes back to the Xanthi fever in Deep Space Nine's episode Fascination, making that everyone got horny in that episode. That was when Kira and Bashir got the hots for each other, and Dax was into Cisco, and Jake was into Kira, and
Oh yeah, that's
Quark was
right.
into Keiko. But the Bendai syndrome, that was from the Next Generation episode Sarek, when Sarek came on board and had to mind meld with Picard because his brain was all out of whack.
Yeah.
And then that neutral zone chart that Aaron was talking about, that's like a almost identical copy to the depiction of the neutral zone from from Balance of Terror in the original series, where you have the Romulan uh, the Romulan planets are labeled Romulus and then Rom-I for some reason, which is probably at the time meant to be like Romulus
Remus.
2.
Yeah.
Um
Rom
yeah,
2.
yeah, you got shortened to like Rom 2, but yeah, like we can assume now as Remus,
Yeah.
but they even had it as
But
Rom
yeah,
2.
it's funny that they have it. Yeah, exactly.
And they have Charon on there, which is where
Oh
there's
yeah.
the Treaty of Charon, which was that was
Isn't
where
that
like there's the
also where
final
the
battle.
isn't that where the two colored people come from as well?
Yeah, so that's a different Charon because that's supposed to be
Oh,
like
okay.
the outer galaxy or something.
I was like, okay, why I didn't realize that it was there, but yeah, okay, got it.
Yeah. And there's multiple Rigels, multiple Charons.
Can you go back to the TOS chart? It's sort of looking at this. It almost looks like whatever's underneath the sector Z-6 is like just a piece of paper that got stuck on there. It's like it almost has dimension, like it's a sticker or something.
Yeah. That's
That's
probably
pretty
like
funny.
Matt Jeffries like taped that on. He's like, it looks
Yeah,
like a little blank. Let me
yeah.
tape
It
something
almost looks
on
like it
there.
says $500, $5,000 on it, or something like that.
Yeah, look, it says $5,000 on it, so it's only gonna be on screen for like 2 seconds, and
Yeah.
we'll probably just air
Anyway,
this one time and then a rerun in the summer. No one will ever see it again.
yeah. Oh, they did not know that. I wonder what they would think. It was like, okay, 50 years from now, 57 years from now, people will be sitting, tearing apart all of these graphics and talking about them.
I'll tell you exactly what they would think. They'd think, I am not getting paid enough for this,
Yeah, that's true.
is what they would think. I'm giving them gold.
We need a strike. Which, by the way, the writers, if you are listening to this during the week of September, or whatever, ending in September 29th, the Writers Guild strike is over. They
And the
got pretty
actors
much
start
everything they wanted. Yeah, and they start Sunday, October 1st. They start negotiating. I think
so
Sunday.
we'll have hopefully we'll have cameras rolling soon on
Yes.
Strange New World season 3 and the Section 31 movie, which was the Strange New World season 3 was supposed to go into production like back in May, and it got pushed back.
Oh wow.
The Section 31 movie, they were already planning to start shooting in October, so it, actually might start on time. I think it'll probably get pushed back till November, but I expect they'll be shooting both by the end of the year. So that is very very promising news. So
Yes.
the oath not to consume patients made me laugh, but that is of course a reference to the Hippocratic oath, the whole like oath of a doctor to do no harm, which I only know about because of Star Trek. I learned that as a kid watching Star Trek, like, oh, this Hippocratic oath that they talk about on Star Trek, that's a real thing, I guess, and that's cool. And then I like to keep track of the Kayshanism. So we got the Sokath his eyes open. That's an old one. That's from Darmok, actually. Been there, done that. But we got a new one here with Carno when his mind was fogged. That's what Kayshawn
Yeah.
says when Tiana is in her Betazoid hunger craze. So,
Yep.
and then of course the Malcolm
I love the
Reed
box.
puzzle
Yes. Well, in the
nod
box
to
too.
the Malcolm Reed on Star
Yeah.
Trek Enterprise. The box based on, very similar to the box as the Bajoran orbs are kept in, just different shape, but kind of the
Yeah.
same
It even has like a little
same
jewel on the
designs.
top.
And then the tarot cards. Aaron and I were looking at these,
Oh
so
yeah.
I don't know, Aaron, if you want to.
Yeah. So we have the emissary, which is Cisco, which is the magician in tarot cards. That one I actually do know. There's the Borhara, something like that. It's
Yeah,
the
the Bajoran ghost things.
yeah, it's their spirit. There's the orb card that we're trying to figure out why there's 10 orbs when there's really 9 orbs in reality. Like I'm wondering if that extra means something or it's just was just an accident. We have the Celestial Temple
Someone hit a
and
copy paste 10 or 9 times instead of 8 times, or
yeah, exactly. We have Invasion, which I don't know specifically what that's supposed to be,
that's
but it is
I was thinking it's Lee Nollis when he fought the Cardassian who had
okay.
been
Yeah,
been bathing in the water.
and it is Cardassian legs. It definitely looks like that. And then there's Derna, which is the Bajoran moon.
It's the
Is that right?
Bajoran moon that the Romulans tried to house weapons on
Yeah.
in the war.
In the guise of a hospital or something,
Yeah, because
wasn't it?
Romulan's gonna Romulan.
Yeah. So these are really cool. Actually, I could see them producing something like this and putting them out for sale.
Well, yeah, give us the lower decks tarot cards. I mean, you got
Yeah.
what, 5 of them right here already designed for you. So there you go. Yeah, just pay the I know you don't have to because it's all, owned by Paramount slash CBS, but pay the titmouse person who designed these and sell some
Well,
tarot cards.
if you buy T-shirts from them, that money is only for it's Titmouse. It has nothing to do. They don't. Paramount doesn't make any money off of that. So if you want to help
Oh,
support the writers and designers and all that stuff a little more directly, you can buy directly from the Titmouse store
I
on
was
their
gonna
website.
get the Moopsy one, and then I
Yeah,
didn't. I always like, oh yeah, I have a whole week to buy that. I'll just do it
I think it's
tomorrow, and
still
then I can never
available.
do it. I think you have to get it like within a week from the episode airing.
I don't think they do that anymore. Maybe I'm
Oh,
wrong, but can you
okay.
continue and I will look it up.
Well, that was it on the Gorn eggs. I do
Oh,
have some
we're
subspace
not.
transmissions. Well, I can go through these while you're looking that up. But
Okay.
y'all just heard Aaron and I talk about this episode for an hour and a half. So we'd love to hear what y'all
Wow.
think about it. So please comment on YouTube, or you can reply to my tweets on Twitter. I'm on Blue Sky now. I'm on Instagram now. Y'all can also talk to us on the Tex-Trek Discord server, or on the Tex-Trek Facebook page. There's links to all of that. But I asked people, what did y'all think of last week's episode, Something Borrowed, Something Green? And on YouTube, Opinions No One Cares About said, talking about the season premiere episode, Tuvix, that's spelled Twovix. Tuvix did a good job balancing plot lines, but ever since then, this season's episodes have been all about bad subplots dragging down the overall quality of the episode. It's a little worrisome. Aaron, I know you weren't on the show last week, but you said that you
Yes.
had some of those concerns with the B story last week.
Yeah.
And I don't know opinions if that's how you felt about the B story this week, but I'd be curious. Please let us know. I like this. Opinions no one cares about also said that makes Tindy a daughter of the fifth house. So I guess her being from the fifth wealthiest family in the
Oh yeah.
syndicate. So she's the fifth house, like Lwaxana Troi was a daughter of the fifth house in Betazoid culture. So
That's
there's
funny.
another Betazoid connection. And then on Star Trek Twitter, Eric said about last week's episode, I'll be hornswoggled. It appears I've been whisked away into the curious world of moving pictures and glowing contraptions known as the television. And I must say I've taken a liking to this particular episode. The writing was as lively as a catfish in a frying pan.
I think it might have been because I was either getting sick or whatever. It's like I really, really did not like that plot line that last week, and now I'm just like, okay, whatever. It's silly. It's still silly. To me, this was something I was going to bring up. It's like, in real life, we don't know what Mark Twain sounded like. However, in Star Trek, they literally do know what he sounded like because he was on the Enterprise. He does not sound like Foghorn Leghorn. So it's like,
It's close enough.
Anyway. But yeah, to me, it's just like, okay, that it was a gag that went just a little too long, which is weird given the amount of time the show is only 22 minutes.
But there's, I guess, a lot of different alternatives to Twitter to try to contact us through. If I don't know if there's like
We're
another
creating
one that
50 million accounts now. Where it's like, who knows?
if there's like a good site where like people like to talk about Star Trek, then other than Reddit,
I
'cause
feel
don't
like
think I can handle
Blue
Reddit.
Sky
but
is becoming kind of the landing place for a lot of Star Trek people.
I guess I don't know. Like I guess I need to actually like use social media. Like I need to actually like start like posting more. I don't really like post much. Don't know. But I'll try to. I don't know. Just I'm so like intimidated by like on Blue Sky, like just trying to like build a following over there. It's like it was so hard just to get people to pay attention to me on Twitter. Now I got to like start all over again. But if there
Well,
is like somewhere where like are people that pay attention to this show, like wherever y'all
yeah,
um
we will go where the people go.
yeah, like I don't know, the Tex-Trek
I want
audience,
to
like
be
where
where
are
the
y'all?
people go.
The Drawn to Trek. I never hear anything from Drawn to Trek. So if you're listening to Drawn to Trek, say hi to me sometime. I'd like to interact with you.
I
Let me
haven't
know
been as
what
good as I
platform to.
should be by tweeting stuff like too. By the way, apologize for not having an Easter egg video this week. I just was not able to do it.
I think we still covered.
Oh
I
yeah,
think we still covered all the fun stuff.
I
in
have
there.
fun doing them. Trying to beat Jorg.
Well, he is quick.
Yeah.
Um.
He also just posts whether he's worried about a spoiler or not. So I tend to wait longer than most people just because I don't want to get yelled at. But maybe I should just do it. Put a hashtag on.
Well, I need to say thank you to all of the Tex-Trek Patreon supporters. Y'all make it possible for us to do the weekly live show. So thank you, Starfleet, Sohel, Cake is Eternal, Crazy Dutchie, Joanne Robertson, John Daw, Geek Filter, Earl Grey Trekkie, Quarkspar, Benjinium, Stephanie Durantes, Matthew Averett, Braxton, Chuck A, and our anonymous supporters. We'll be back next week at the usual time, 7 p.m. Central on Friday to discuss Lower Deck Season 4, Episode 6. And we also do the first reaction stream on Thursdays with Rachel and the gang over there, so people can check that out as well.
That is very fun.
Otherwise, we will see y'all next time, and until then, as always, live long and prosper, y'all.
Listen to the Tex-Trek podcast through Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or at tex-trek.com. Like us on Facebook at facebook.com/tex-trek, and follow Fathery on Twitter at txtrek. Please support us by liking our videos and subscribing to our channel on YouTube. Thank you and take care.